yesterday there was some confusion in the timetable, and for some time, maybe about for 30-40 minute class was taken. So I will be repeating that thing entirely. Second important thing, that those of you who have participated in the class yesterday, you are not expected to answer the question that I'll be asking. Only rest of the class who did not participate yesterday, because I just want to see their recall. If you answer it, that means it was told to you yesterday itself. So don't answer those which I had already asked you yesterday. So now come back to the subject matter. That we, if you recall, that we had talked about three important decisions that we take in financial management. One is investment decision, second is financing decision, and the third one was
Dividend decision.
dividend decision. The fifth unit we shall be discussing will be all about dividend decision. Acha, okay, all of you, once those of you have written, it's okay. Those of you have not, just write your names in the format that we followed in accounting, like M170, I, okay, M221, like you have written, M for MBA, I for international business, B for banking, and H for MHA. Just write your name in the chat box. It will serve as your attendance. So dividend decision is the one that we were talking about. So in the entire fifth unit, except for one topic, we shall discuss about the dividends. Now let us come back to once again about the very first session, wherein we talked about that what is the overall objective of financial management?
Wealth maximization.
Wealth maximization.
Good evening, sir.
So in what way dividend decisions will lead to either maximization or erosion of shareholder wealth will be the subject matter of this class, unit number 5. Now, dividend decision broadly, there can be one of the two decisions. That is, either company should pay or will pay dividend, or company will not. So this is one of the decisions. Now, each stage, paying or not paying, will have implications or will have an effect on the valuation of a firm. Assume that the firm does not pay. Firm does not pay. Ordinarily, what will happen? Shareholders will think that the company is not paying dividend, is not paying part of the profit. So they may not like to stay in the company. Market may also not look at favorably with the company because it is not paying. Okay, suppose it pays. It pays. So what will be the implications? Its favorable impact ordinarily, I'm not saying 100% confirm, ordinarily market will look at it favorably that the company is paying dividend, but its opposite side or other side of the coin would be that it will have less and less reserves. There will be less and less retained earnings. So broadly, if it pays, you have listened to what will be the consequences, what will be the implication, and also you have listened if it does not pay, what will be the consequences. Now let us take one step more. Suppose it pays, it has less reserves or it has less retained earnings. What will be its consequences if it has less retained earning?
So there is no amount, like a particular amount for reinvestment.
Okay, it will have no funds for reinvestment. Okay. And what will be further consequences if it has no funds for reinvestment? It will have to resort to external liability for financing new projects or for expansion or for growth. All right. So once again, if it pays, it has consequences. If it does not pay, it has consequences. Suppose it pays, it has lesser retained earning, and for growth and financing, it will rely on external financing or debt financing, isn't it? Is this clear or not? Suppose it realizes on external financing, it goes for fresh equity. What will be the consequence of it if it goes for fresh equity? Okay, number of shares will increase. Next, anything which has a direct bearing on the shareholders' wealth maximization. Let me give you a clue. It has got something to do with cost of capital. Can anyone of you who are not think? Yes. Yes, very true. Cost of equity is always more than cost of retained earning. That means if it goes for external financing, if it goes for equity, if it goes for fresh IPO, then it will raise equity, and cost of equity will be more than cost of retained earning, and ultimately cost of project will be more. And if cost is more, profit is less. If profit is less, wealth maximization is compromised. So you have understood the consequences of paying or not paying. Okay. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now next issue is first one was a decision between paying and not paying. Second thing related to dividend decision is if it decides to pay how much. Should it pay 10%? Suppose EPS is rupees 10, earning per share is rupees 10. Should it pay 1, 2, 3? Like should it pay 10%, 20%, 100%, 0%, 60%? What will be the percentage of money that it should pay? It will be the second decision. Now here there are two schools of thought. How much should it pay and how much should it retain? There are two schools of thought. One school of thought says whether it pays something or it does not pay something. It pays or it does not pay, it is immaterial. That is paying dividend or not paying dividend, paying more dividend or paying less dividend has got nothing to do with the valuation of a company. This is one school of thought. Another school of thought says that paying dividend definitely affects the valuation of a company. Paying more dividend affects, paying less dividend affects less, paying more affects more. And this school of thought that the owners, or so the authors or the academicians who belong to this group, they call their theories are or can be classified as dividend relevance theory, and the opposite groups theories can be called as dividend irrelevance theory. Irrelevance theories means it has nothing to do with valuation of a company. You pay, you don't pay, you pay less, you pay more, it doesn't matter. And dividend relevance theory says a payment of a dividend definitely affects the valuation of a company. Paying more or less definitely affects the valuation of a company. All this we shall be able to evaluate it, show it to you numerically, show it to you with the help of certain calculations. That this is how the valuation matters. This is how the value of a company goes up or comes down, the share price increases or decreases with payment of dividend. So this is in brief about the overall, the overall summary of the unit. Then there'll be some theoretical concept like different forms of dividend, different types of dividend, certain legal and contractual obligations of paying dividend, and purely theoretical stuff that I have included in this slide, and I'll discuss with you. So the summary of the unit is that dividend is one of the decisions that we take in financial management. Payment of dividend affects the value of a company according to some people, and according to others payment of dividend does not matter. How it matters, how it does not matter will be explained to you. And also, if company pays, what are the consequences? If company does not pay, what are the consequences? So this is about the brief history or brief summary of the dividend. If you have anything to ask up to this stage, or something that you are confused about or you're not clear about, you can ask about it from me now. If not, I'll move on to I'll explain to you with the help of certain slides. Each one of you has mentioned your name, I believe. Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Now let me start explaining to you with the help of slides. This is the unit 5th, dividend policy. Now, the meaning of dividend you all know. Just one word of caution here. While I was evaluating your answer books of first test, there was a question of dividend. Some of you, not 1, 2, but I think maybe 10, 12 of you have wrongly written the word dividend itself. Some of you have written the spelling of dividend as DIVIDEN, and instead of D, some of you have written as a T. It is incorrect. It is not dividend, but it is dividend. Okay, dividend is a word which refers to the part of profit which company distributes among its shareholder. So profit, with the help of profit, you calculate EPS, and from out of that profit, the amount which is paid to the shareholders, that particular portion is called as a dividend. With the help of this, you calculate DPS. Now, dividend is a right as well as a reward of the shareholders. When I say right, the shareholders have right to receive dividend. It is they will decide how much dividend should be paid. Naturally, it will be decided by majority. And also it is a reward for the investment that they make in the company. Now, what is the expectations of investors, that is the shareholders? They want maximum returns. And what is the expectation, or what is the objective of the company? It wants long-term growth. Now here, something to be explained. Long-term growth. If there is no retention, there will be no growth. I'll repeat. If there is no retention, there will be no growth. Do you agree with this, or I should explain it with the help of some example? Let me repeat. If there is no retention, if you do not retain money, growth will not be possible. Samir, can you write your roll number? Okay, this needs to be elaborated a bit. Suppose you take an example of a small fruit seller on the street. He purchased fruit for rupees 1000. In the evening, he has got 1200 rupees with him. That is, he made 20% profit. That 20% profit, that is 200 rupees, he has consumed. He has used for personal consumption. So next
Yes,
day,
sir.
once again, he purchases fruits of rupees 1000, again sells it, and again he makes 20% profit. If he repeats this exercise for a month, so he will continue to be receiving 200 rupees, assuming that 20% is his profit margin. There is no growth. Suppose on day 1, instead of consuming 200 rupees totally, he consumes 150, and next day he purchases fruits 1050. So at 20%, he will make more money, more than 200. Again, whatever he receives as a profit, half of it, 25% of it, 10%, 30%, whatever is he thinks, he reinvests. So if he does so, at the end of month, the 200 will certainly become 1000, 2000, 1500, anything much more. So that means for growth, retention is necessary. So this is what, if you see the slide, company not only wants to retain the shareholders, but also should look for, and they do look for, long-term growth. Therefore, if company provides more dividend to its shareholders, it has to meet its future requirements through either issue of shares or through debt. Under all circumstances, it needs money for growth. Dividend decisions are one such things based on which this growth or retention or stuff like that can be thought of. Paying more or paying less, or not paying at all, or paying. So these are all the decisions which will affect, or which will change the value of a company. Now, dividend policy thus affects both long-term financing as well as wealth of the shareholders. the firm's decision to pay dividend should be taken in such a way that the profit should be distributed, at the same time there should be retained earning also, and it should be able to satisfy the total shareholders which it has. Naturally, different shareholders will have different expectations. Some of them would like to have more dividend, some of them would like to have less dividend, some of them would like to have no dividend at all. So company has to take decisions in such a way that it satisfies as far as possible maximum shareholders. Now, what all I have explained to you briefly, this is written on the slide so that you are able to recall it properly. So value of a firm can be maximized if shareholders' wealth is maximized. No, these two paragraphs or these two small 3-4 lines are about the relevancy or otherwise. According to one school of thought, dividend decisions materially affect the shareholders' wealth. And naturally, if shareholders' wealth is affected, valuation of a company will also be affected. According to another school of thought, these are irrelevant. So we will see how these are relevant and how these are not relevant. So same thing which I have explained to you before. One theory is known as dividend relevant theory, and the other is dividend irrelevant theory, or relevance of dividend or irrelevance of dividend. Now we come to the theory of relevance first. That is, there are certain authors who are of the opinion that dividend decisions do matter. So the people who are included in this category, importantly, are this James Walter, popularly known as just Walter's model, Gordon's model, Jones model, Richardson model. So these are all the people who have numerically proved that dividend decisions do matter. Dividend decisions do matter. Then there are other groups of thought. There are other people who opine, who have proved their decisions, dividend decisions are irrelevant. Now, can you recall or can you think who could be people under this category according to whom dividend decisions could be irrelevant? The people whom these are the Gordon and these are relevant people. I am saying the people who are, okay, I'll stay here. The people whose name I have not written here, but according to them, dividend decisions would be irrelevant. Value of firm will not depend on the payment of dividend or paying more dividend or paying less dividend. Can you just think who could be people under this category? Okay, just to give you some clue, we have discussed yesterday itself, yesterday. In the last unit, we have discussed two important contradictory thoughts. One thought was that capital structure is...
So Modi Gilani and MM.
Yes, you got it. Modi Gilani and Miller.
Yes,
Because if you can recall, one school of thought proved it mathematically that capital structure has a bearing on valuation of a company, and capital structure has a bearing on a valuation of company. And if you recall, a lengthy table with lots of figures wherein different EPS were calculated at different debt equity ratio. If you can recall, if you can observe that EPS was continuously increasing as we were changing debt equity ratio, or one can say as we were changing capital structure, our EPS was changing, isn't it? Can you recall that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Samir, I asked you to write your name. Perhaps you have not written your name. Sorry, I'm not sorry. Your roll number.
I have written.
Okay, you have written. Fine. It is this Islamic banking 144.
Not Islamic bank, it's international business.
International business 144.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then who wrote this? All right, leave it. Fine. So according to the earlier theory, if you change the capital structure, EPS changes. If EPS changes, market value, let us assume, also changes. Then hypothesis proved it numerically once again, that you saw yourself in the last class perhaps that we took offline, that it had no bearing. They proved it that levered firm and unlevered firm command the same valuation. Similarly, in case of dividend also this happens, or this has been proved. So I'll talk much about the dividend relevance theory, and let us see how does it happen. So who are the people, important people? Let us just talk about one of them, Walter's approach. Walter has suggested a formula. If we substitute the values in that formula, we will see that share price changes as dividend payout ratio changes. I'll repeat. According to Walter's approach, the share price of a company changes as dividend payout ratio changes. When I say dividend payout ratio, it is just extension of what we said a few minutes before. Higher dividend payout ratio, lesser dividend payout ratio, constant dividend payout ratio, all these things, the moment these change, share price changes. That means according to them, dividend decisions are relevant. So we will see what is the formula, how to calculate the price of a share, and they see how this changes. And accordingly, they have proved change means if you pay more, share price is more. If you pay less, share price is less, depending on the category of firm. I'll explain to you details. Walter's approach suggests that dividend decisions are relevant. Now, according to Walter's approach, before I discuss with you the valuation or the calculation of share price, Walter has categorized firms into three broad categories. What are those three broad categories? Just one second. What are those three broad categories? One category of firm they call as growing firms. First one, they call this firm as growing firm. What is a growing firm? Where R is greater than K. And R, you remember, R is your internal rate of return and K is your
Capital.
cost of capital.
Cost
Cost of equity, especially. Cost of equity. So these firms, within bracket, let me write, known as growing firms. Growing firms. So what are the growing firms? Firms which have, or for them, the
More internal rate of return than cost of
IRR is more than cost of equity. There are other categories of firms which you call as declining firms. What are the declining firms? Where R is less than KE. That is, internal rate of return is less than KE. Their expected earning of shareholders are more and IRR is less. There are third category of firms also, which Walters call them as normal firms. What are normal firms? Wherein their IRR is equal to KE. So before we go to see the formula of Walter, how they prove, how do they decide, so let us be clear about that. According to them, there are three types of firms, and in real sense also, there can be these three categories only. Firm will have its IRR either more than K or less than K or equal to K. Or can there be a fourth possibility also? Can there be a fourth possibility?
No, sir.
No. That means first thing about the Walters model is, or Walters formula is, it talks about the relevancy of dividend. According to Walter, dividend decisions are relevant. Number two, according to Walters, all firms can be divided into three broad categories: growing, declining, and normal. For each category, they have suggested or they have recommended different debt equity ratio. I'll repeat. First of all, Walter belongs to which category? Relevant or irrelevant? Relevant. Number two, according to them, or according to him, there are three categories of firm: growing, declining, and normal. Further, in each category, he recommends different dividend payout ratio. What does he do? What does he recommend? We will see in the subsequent slide, provided discussion up to this stage is clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, okay. Now, the assumptions, I'll take up assumptions later. Let us look at the Walters model or Walters
Yes.
formula. According to Walters formula, price of a share is equal to D. D stands for, oh, I have written perfect, yes, dividend per share. And R is internal rate of return, E is earning per share, and K is the cost of equity capital. Now, if we substitute different debt equity ratios in this formula for different firms, first we will start, let us say, growing firm. Then we will see declining firm. Then we will see normal firm. For each category of firms, we will see what happens if dividend payout ratio changes. So this formula I should have written, I'll check in the subsequent slides also. Yes, it is written. Assume that earning per share is rupees 10. Earning per share is rupees 10. Dividend is 40%. You can assume 10%, 20%, 30%. I have just given one illustration. Let us say it is 40%. R is 15% and K is 10%. So which category of firm does this become? Growing, declining, or normal?
So growing.
Naturally, because R is more than KE. I have written also growing firms. So growing firms R will be more than KE. And let us assume that EPS is 10. Earning per share is rupees 10. So what kind of dividend decision can it take? It can pay 0%. It can pay 1%. Let us say any range between 1 and 100, or between 0 and 100. So let us assume it is paying 40. You may say why 40, you may calculate at 30, you may calculate it. We'll calculate at various debt equity ratio. Once we calculate at various debt equity ratio, only then we will be in a position to see what are the recommendations and are the recommendations true or not, and several things subsequently. Can you calculate yourself and see the answer is correct as 130? What will be the value of D here if you want to calculate it 40%? Value of D will be what? You are earning 10 and you are paying 40%. So what will be the value of D?
4 rupees.
Rupees 4, correct? Rupees 4. What will be the value of E?
10.
Rupees 10.
10.
Agreed? So take out your pen and copy. Write down this formula. Substitute the values. Instead of D, write 4. Instead of E, what you will write?
10.
10. What will you write for this D?
4.
4.
4.
Four.
What will you write? What? Yes, 4, correct. What will you write for R?
1.5.
1.5. What will you write for KE?
1.
1 or 0.1?
So 10% of 10 is 1. No?
0.1.
10% is 1 or 0.1?
0.1.
The point.
0.1.
0.1. 0.1. And what will you write here?
And sir, R will be 0.15.
R will be
0.15.
0.15. Yes,
0.15.
Yes, sir.
0.15. 1.5 become 115%. 0.15, 0.1, 0.1, and here it will be 6, sorry, 10, and it will be 4. If you substitute these values, I'm sure you will get 130. Take a minute or so and find it out.
Yes, sir. It's 130.
Hmm?
Yes, sir. It's 130.
You all got 130? Every one of you should try. I have told you substitution of the values. Are you clear about the figures that I have told you? let me write here after, just 1 second. What is D? In our example, D is 4. What is E?
4,
E is
10, 10,
10.
10.
D I have explained. What is R?
0.15,
0.15.
0.15. And what is K?
0.1.
0.1. So all these values which are required have been written here, and your answer
Yes,
is
sir.
130. Is
Yes,
there
sir.
anyone of you? Okay. Is there anyone of you in the entire class? I think how many of you are present today? 54 of you. So is there anyone in the class to whom the calculation is not clear? Okay. Say it again. No, I'm not. You are not audible. Can you say a bit louder? No, no, not. Okay, it's good that you have asked this question. KE, will it be some percent of something or it will be independent? No, it is good that you have asked. Let me clarify. Independent, isn't it? Independent. And R will also be independent.
Independent. Yes, sir.
R and KE are independent. Once again, just recall the discussions we had, elaborate discussions we had in unit number 4, and the concept I have explained to you about KE. In unit 3, the concept that I have explained to you about IRR. Any other doubt? No doubt. Now, once you are clear about calculation of 130, take out your pen and paper, calculate these 4 more. That is when dividend payout ratio, in this case, how much is it? 40%. Calculate when it is 20%, when it is 60%, when it is 80%, and when it is 100%. What will be the value of D if you want to calculate at 20%?
So 0.20.
It's not 0.0, it will be
It is
rupees
2.
2,
It will be
2. What will be the value of D if you calculate at 60%?
6.
6.
6.
8. It will be 10.
8.
10. E will remain constant. D will keep changing. These 3 figures will also remain constant. No change. Okay. Find out what will be the value of P if DPR, dividend payout ratio, is 20%. Once again, find out if it is 60%. Once again, find out if it is 80%, and find out if it is 100%. Once you make these calculations, in the chat box, you write an answer like I am typing. Just like this, I am typing M101. 20% rupees this, comma, 60% rupees this, 80% rupees this, 100% rupees this. Look at what I have posted. 40% need not to work out because I have already showed you it is 130. So you will have some figures here. Can you see the matter in the chat box?
Yes, sir.
I have written rupees 5 times. 20% rupees, 40% rupees, 60% rupees, 80% rupees, 100% rupees. One calculation has already been done. That is against 40. What will you write? 130. So you will have various figures at 20, 40, 60, 80, and 100%. Work out these. Once you do so, further explanation or further decision can be understood only if these things are worked out. Has somebody worked out at 20? Yes, Azizur Rahman. Okay, then hold on. I'll just delete what Aziz has. No, I think it cannot be deleted. just try to post it to my personal number. Try to, now you have already written, but better if you post it to my personal number. You post in the in WhatsApp group on my personal number. Yes, let's post it to personal number. Do not post in the chat box. Do it fast. I mean, if you are not doing, I'll only assume that you joined meeting and then left somewhere taking cup of coffee somewhere in a restaurant. How many of you can see the calculations given in the chat box? Are the calculations visible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Sorry? Can you say it what I asked you? Can you answer? The calculations right now are visible in the chat box or not?
Yes, sir. They are visible.
Yes, sir. Answers are visible.
All answers are visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but still you work out yourself and send it in the on the we are discussing dividend relevance theory. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Number 2, which firm are we discussing?
Growing.
Growing firms. What are our observations? That if
Not-
DPR is increasing, you have all observed it correctly. If DPR is increasing, P is also decreasing. There is an inverse relationship between DPR and P. So what should be the recommendation of this for this type of firm?
It should have a less DPR.
It should have as less DPR as possible. Suppose
Yes, sir.
DPR is 0. So this 140 will be more or less?
So more. DPR
More,
is
naturally.
less. Yes, sir.
If company pays, it will be more. If company pays 0%, it will be 150. It will be 150. So the lesser company pays, better it is for the company, because if DPR increases, its share price decreases. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Is it the dividend decisions according to Walter are relevant or irrelevant?
So relevant.
Relevant. And for which company right now we have concluded?
Growing firms.
Growing firm.
Growing firm. Now for the time being, forget about the formula. Just do not look at what Walter is saying, what is the formula. Just look at this word growing firm. And you know the meaning of growing firms, where R is more than K.
Okay.
Forget about the formula. Without Walter, without formula, without all these complications, all these calculations, can we say without any calculations, a growing firm is required to pay less and less dividend? If so, what is the logic? Is my question clear to you?
Yes, sir.
The question, I repeat, ignoring what Walter is saying, forgetting about the formula and complication, this divided by 10 multiplied by this and that, forget everything. A firm which is growing, R is more than K, should pay less dividend, and why? Formula is correct. According to formula, you have seen the empirical things, that one is increasing, the other is decreasing, and vice versa. So your recommendation is correct. But leaving the formula aside, yes.
Sir,
Less
dividend
dividend,
ज्यादा
then
पे करने
between-
से
Just 1 second, one by one. I can't hear all of you.
शेयर प्राइस कम रहेगा तो ज्यादा लोग उसको बाय करेंगे.
और रीजन बताइए.
तो रिटेन अर्निंग की
नहीं,
formula-
एक सेकंड, अरे रुको फातिमा, तुमने क्या कहा? शेयर प्राइस कम रहेगा
तो ज्यादा लोग परचेज करेंगे तो वो आते चांसेस.
सुनो, अरे रुक जाओ. इसका मतलब ये है कि कंपनी को ये कोशिश करनी चाहिए कि शेयर प्राइस कम रहे.
सर शायद कंपनी के शेयर होल्डर्स कम रहेंगे इसमें.
आवाज सुनने लग रही
भाई ये तो यार बड़ा गड़बड़ मामला हो रहा है.
सर.
ये शेयर होल्डर कम और ज्यादा हो सकते हैं.
सर रिटेन्ड अर्निंग ज्यादा होगी तो एज वी नो कॉस्ट ऑफ रिटेन्ड अर्निंग कम होती है तो इससे प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी इंक्रीज होती है.
पहले इस पे क्लैरिटी हो जाए कि शेयर होल्डर्स जो हैं कंपनी के कम या ज्यादा हो सकते हैं. कंपनी, you know, I don't know if I explained to you this process in the accounting class or not. A very brief about how a company is formed. A company will be formed by writing an application or submitting a proper application to the registrar of companies, wherein they will write that this is the capital which we wish to raise, and this will be the denomination of capital. 1 lakh share of rupees 10 each, so 10 lakh rupees. So there will be 1 lakh shareholders. Each may have 10 shares, or there may be 50,000 shareholders, each may have 2 shares. So there can be any number of shareholders, but the total number of shares would remain Is this clear?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Secondly, all these things that you were saying, that it is better to have, less price so that more people can buy. I mean, what is the objective of the company? Company is what? Association of shareholders. So whatever is the expectation of all shareholders, collectively it is the expectation of a company. So what would shareholders expect? Share price should be more or less?
More, sir.
More. Or will they bother if share prices are more? People will not buy. What is their objective? Their objective is to sell their shares at a higher price.
Yes, to gain profit.
Isn't it? All right. Now come back to the Walter. So what should a growing firm do? A growing firm should pay
less dividend.
as less dividend as possible. Now the question still remains unanswered. What was my question? Ignoring Walter's model, can we say that a firm whose R is greater than K should pay less?
Less dividend.
Can you assume yourself to be a shareholder in a company whose case is under discussion? Any company, it is Alliance, it is Wipro, it is Cisco, think of any number of companies available in the world. One of those companies, you are a shareholder in the company. In your case, in the case of your company, its R is 15, its K is 10. What would you like this firm to do? Pay more dividend to you or less dividend to you, and why? Forget about Walter. Is my question clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Sir, we will encourage you to reinvest in the business and to pay less dividend because it is generating.
Okay. Any other answer from anyone else?
Sir, it is generating higher than expected return. So if company will pay dividend and we will reinvest in somewhere else, the return will be just 10%. But here we are getting 15%.
Anyone else? Have you understood what Afaq said?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No. Okay, no problem. But at least my question is clear to you.
Yes.
Okay. I'll be
Sir, is
leaving you now.
AFA, sir,
Yes.
Sir, is Afaq trying to say
Anam, you
कि
want to ask something?
यस सर सर क्या आफाक ये कहने की कोशिश करें क्योंकि हमें एक्सपेक्टेड रेट ऑफ रिटर्न से ज़्यादा मिल रहा है तो फिर हमें जो एक्स्ट्रा अमाउंट मिल रहा है उसको हम रीइन्वेस्ट करेंगे इन द सेम कंपनी?
बहरहाल आप सोचिए, और बहुत दिन नहीं हुए इस बात को डिस्कस किए हुए आपसे, मुश्किल से एक हफ्ता भी नहीं गुजरा. आपको 15 मिनट का टाइम, अभी ये ब्रेक है, वी आर वंस अगेन मीटिंग एट 9 o'clock, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है ना?
Sir, can you repeat the question?
Okay, sure. Question was, assume that we do not know who is Walter. We do not know what are his recommendation. We have not made any calculation. अभी आपने बहुत सारे कैलकुलेशन किए ना ये? हेलो?
Yes, sir.
तो आपने ये सारे कैलकुलेशन किए. सपोज नथिंग एग्जिस्ट ऑन द ब्लैक बोर्ड और स्क्रीन पर और लैपटॉप पे, कहीं कोई चीज एग्जिस्ट नहीं करती. आप एक कंपनी में शेयर होल्डर हैं जिसका R 15% है और K 10% है. आप क्या चाहेंगे? कंपनी शुड पे यू 100% और 0%, और क्यों? इज द क्वेश्चन क्लियर नाउ?
Yes, sir.
दिस इज वेयर द अंडरस्टैंडिंग लाइज. नोबडी वुड एवर आस्क यू कि वॉल्टर मॉडल एक्सप्लेन कीजिए. जब आप ज्वाइन करेंगे कंपनी में, अभी आपको तजर्बा हो जाएगा, आप जाएंगे ऑफिस में बैठेंगे तो कोई आपसे ये नहीं कहेगा वॉल्टर मॉडल की लिमिटेशन बता दीजिए. बता दी तो आपको सर्टिफिकेट अच्छा देंगे, नहीं बताई तो आपको फेल कर देंगे. कोई ऐसा करेगा कि आपसे तो काम कराएंगे वो. ठीक है? तो वी आर मीटिंग एट 9 o'clock once again, and when we meet, in the meantime आप कॉफी पीजिए, चाय पीजिए, लेकिन सोचते रहिए कि ये क्या, इसका जवाब क्या होगा. So shall I close the meeting? You will rejoin or I will leave it like this only?
So we will rejoin.
Sir, we will rejoin.
Rejoin. Okay. Then
Yes.
this being the case, I'll just 1 second. आप ऐसा कर लीजिए कि I will just इसको rejoin आप कर लीजिएगा. Okay?
Okay, sir.
मैं मीटिंग फिर क्लोज कर देता हूँ. ठीक है ना?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
थैंक यू सर. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर.